Okay, thank you. Welcome back, folks. We are now taking up H58, an act relating to Medicaid coverage for play therapy. And we have with us Christina Snook. It says here you're a clinical mental health graduate student at VSU. And welcome to the committee. We appreciate you being here. And we are interested in hearing your perspective about age 58 and play therapy and your experiences.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, like you said, I am a clinical mental health graduate student at Vermont State University. I've worked for over 20 years in public school with children in various behavioral settings, as an art educator and as a school counselor. So in those settings, I have used play as a means for learning and teaching. And I am currently studying play therapy through a program in Florida that's a year-long certification in that. I think that play therapy, I'm so excited that this bill is up and people are talking about it. I think that play therapy gets a bad rap because of the nature of the word play. We think it's an unstructured thing. Why can't kids just go out and play in the yard? It is children's language. It is a way to access their availability for therapy in particular by using what they know and what is comfortable with them. And a therapist who's fluent in this language can provide effective evidence-based support to children in our state who are served by Medicaid. So not just people that can afford out of pocket, basically. And we think about those populations that are in dire need that need this kind of support. Play therapy is a clear, structured format, so it has structure to it depending on the different modalities that are being used. So it can treat children experiencing trauma, parental separation and divorce, kids experiencing homelessness, parents with substance use disorder. And so from my perspective as a graduate student and someone studying this, I hear often from my colleagues that when they go in to work with children, they're put on their caseload. They don't actually have the ability to study this because it's not something that's valued, but yet you get children on your caseload. And you're baffled at how to access treatment with them when you're applying modalities that are mostly geared towards adults. So play therapy allows therapists to have access to be able to kind of reach our children that way.
Christina,
Yes.
In the academic world, because there's specializations, in child psychiatry, child psychology, is play therapy considered to be essentially an essential component in those specialty areas?
From my perspective, yes. In the perspective of academics, I feel like probably the piece that it's not billable, right, is impacting people's exposure to it. So it is just kind of, I think it comes from those of us that are interested in it right now. And there are courses and classes. So in beginning and graduate classes, you get the skills to be a licensed counselor. Most of the time after that, you go on to specialize.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be you were specializing in. I'm just kind of so interested in it that I'm doing both at the same time. So, yeah.
So one of the questions that has arisen is, right now it is in the definition and it is an element of psychotherapy it's an accepted element of psychotherapy for, I don't know if it's only for children, but we know that it is in the definition. We've seen the definition of in the Medicaid plan for psychotherapy that does include, this essentially as a modality. But there is a certain, there's a certain element of this bill that would really look to have play therapy as its own recognized billable service, as opposed to being a subcomponent of another service. And I'm just wondering what your thoughts are about that.
Yeah, there are some modalities of play therapy that are very specific to just play. So if it would kind of muddy the waters to add another modality to it, that is maybe more cognitive. So if you imagine like a 3-year-old that is sitting down to do CBT and might not even actually have the language to understand any of that, or have speech difficulties, those are the most vulnerable people. And so as a standalone, I think it's extremely valuable and important to have this ability for therapists to use.
One of the things that I could anticipate, although, we haven't sort of posed this question to the Department for Vermont Health Access yet. But one of the things that I could anticipate is that they would in fact require psychotherapy as an adjunct, so that if you're going to bill, if play therapy were authorized as a separate service, they would, my guess is most likely also require the presence of a psychotherapy note, so that I just have an inkling about how things work over at DIVA. And so then I'll just, be honest about this. Then I wonder about like, well, what's the value then of having it billed separately? Because honestly, then you would need 2 separate notes, and separate documentation for 2 things, as opposed to it all being sort of wrapped up under the broader category of psychotherapy.
I'm just trying to think if that's the case with other treatments. Be just for this.
Right, whether there would be an additional requirement of another treatment. Yeah, I don't know the answer. And to be fair, we haven't asked DIVA this specific question, because their stance on this at this point in time is that it's already an allowed element of psychotherapy.
As an element? Is that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that is permissible under psychotherapy. But what I'm hearing you say is that it has value in and of itself as a separate standalone service, regardless of the presence of, because it serves as a therapeutic service.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
I want to make sure.
There's tomes of research on it, current and historical. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else that you would want to add? And are there any questions for Christina? Anything else you want to add, Christina?
I just like to thank you for your time. This is exciting, and hopefully, I wouldn't mind answering any questions. Is there any?
I don't see anybody with questions right at this moment. Representative Dobrovich, do you have any questions that you want to ask?
I don't have any questions, but I do thank you very much for coming and speaking today.
We have the sponsor of the bill here as well. So,
Wonderful.
all righty. Thank you so much. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, do we have Dr. Hemmer yet? Okay, great. Good morning, Dr. Hemmer. It's nice to see you. Welcome to the House Human Services Committee. As you know, we're taking up H58, an act relating to Medicaid coverage for play therapy. And we are interested in your experiences and your professional thoughts about the inclusion of play therapy as a both your experiences with the current system, which includes play therapy as an element of psychotherapy, and then the concept of having play therapy be in and of itself a separate covered Medicaid service. So those two questions really are ones that we are looking at, and just interested in your experience here.
Hello to all of you. My name is Dr. Bob Hemmer. I'm down here in Manchester, Vermont. I've been practicing in private practice down here since about 1997. And my practice is limited to children, adolescents, and their families. My specialty is younger children, but also I have kind of developed specialties through training and over the years in neurological disorders, everything from ADHD to autism to traumatic brain injuries. And also I have a background in what's called pediatric psychology, which is dealing with children who have everything from cancer to diabetes and the psychological sequelae of having those types of things. So working with young children, the primary thing is being able to engage the child at their level. So I could talk to all of you and I could just say, hey, we're here, you've met me, tell me what's going on in your life and what the problems are. Children don't do that well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Occasionally they will, but most of them don't.
I was gonna say, I know some adults who don't do that very well. Yeah.
That's later. That's a different therapist.
Yeah, okay.
But the idea is that trying to engage the child at their level through play and a playful interaction to gain some more knowledge about what's going on in their lives and primarily to establish a relationship so the child starts feeling comfortable being in the room, being in the moment with the therapist, and then being able to share what their experiences are like. Because if they're certainly if they're a victim of child sexual abuse, I mean, they're not just going to come in and start spilling that. I mean, they want to be sure they're safe. And the other big thing is we have to understand that cognitive developmental terms, the children don't have some of the words that that we're using right now. What does development mean to them? They have no idea. So the idea is to engage them at the level where they can interact and begin to form a relationship, and then they start to feel comfortable, and then you can start getting deeper into the situation that you want to help them with or resolve. So I don't know if it'd be helpful to. I don't know how many of you have seen. I'm in my office. I don't know how many of you have seen like a child therapy office.
Are you asking if you want to show us your office?
Well,
You're going to move your camera
I have
around?
a Logitech camera which I can move.
Sure. Why don't you go ahead?
Okay, so this is the bookshelf, but if you'll notice down below, there's whoa.
Yeah.
There's
Making us a little dizzy, Dr. Hammer.
I'm sorry, my bad. There's those are that's a Lego pirate ship
Mhm.
and a Lego castle, and then above it, right up here, is a Lego house. And I kind of keep those things standard built in my office, primarily because a lot of the child interactions happen in the home, right? And so we can do that. So whether it's abuse or divorce or domestic violence, I'll use the home to say, well, tell me, what does your house look like? And then it's Legos, so you can rearrange the kitchen or the bedrooms or whatever it is, and that brings the child into the moment. And then they can once they get comfortable, they can start telling you, well, this happened here and this happened there. And so specifically for like a court case where you're trying to determine, the characteristic or the evidence, you might say, that can be really, really helpful. So then I have a whole shelf of more Legos, different games, plenty of drawing materials, markers, gel pens, stuff like this. And I might point out something here, which I use a lot. This is Trouble.
Trouble.
The game
I
Trouble.
recognize that.
I'm
Yep.
glad you recognize that. The sad truth is a lot of kids don't recognize that.
Mm.
So I do a lot of game teaching in here. Also, just so you know, I mean, I have Uno, I have a regular deck of cards. We play a lot of what's a game called Trash in here. But let me give you a specific play therapy example with Trouble, okay? Because you pop the dice, right? You get out on a 1 or a 6, and then with a 6, you get an extra turn. So about 15 years ago, I'm with the kid, and he's like, well, this is boring. I was like, okay, well, how would you make it more interesting? So we started talking, and then it started clicking in my head. So I developed what's called Speed Trouble. And you can get out and you get an extra turn on the even numbers, 2, 4, and 6. Makes the game a lot faster. But then what you do in a situation like that, whatever game you're playing, what I like to do is I externalize my internal thought process about strategy, gameplay, and stuff like this. So for ADHD boys, this game, Speed Trouble, works really well because I say, well, if I count the spaces, I can get them to do timing, pacing, thinking cognitively, cognitive structures about how the strategy works. And then, of course, you introduce a random variable, the dice, and then you have to re-strategize. So you're counting, the biggest thing with ADHD boys is turn taking. So there's a rule that if you pop ahead of yourself, then I can keep the number or pop again. So in the therapy mode, you are trying to think of the strategic interventions. And I want to mention this because one time I came out of my office and I was working down at, I used to have office space with a bigger group down at the Southwestern Vermont Medical Center in the medical office building. So I come out with this kid and the waiting room is packed and the mother goes, so all you do is play games with my kid. And I'm like, okay, well, right. But let me ask you this. And she was an honest person. I said, let me ask you this. Is he getting any better? And she said, well, in fact, he is. And I just put my hand out. I gave him a high five and said, see you next week. And then I pointed to the next kid. I said, you're with me. And the whole waiting room, the secretary told me there. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, that's how it works.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is there is a strategic component that the therapist should be trained in, should know, and you're the game I hate the most and the kids want to play in here is chess. You know why? I have to think about the game.
Yeah.
I'm not that good. Okay, I'm not that good. But like I've got this Speed Trouble in my head, and I can do it automatically. But then, like I said, I'm externalizing the thoughts. I had a kid in here Tuesday, and he can't really hold the cards. And he's 6, so the cards are laid out on the table. Now I could crush him in a couple of turns, right? But I'm teaching him how to play the game the way we play it. And if you do this way, then you'll end up like that. But if you do this that way, then you'll end up like this. Now you have to choose, which way you do it, right? And then you have to be really, really creative. So first of all, no video games in here. The only thing I really use my phone for is if kids are asking about a specific, I don't know, scientific fact or a homework question or something like that. But we don't do video games in here. And we do a lot of art and stuff, a lot of drawing. But you also have to be kind of like on top of it. So I have this game here called Magnetism, right? And basically you have a piece of string and you make a circle with it, and you have to place the magnets so that they don't connect. And if they connect, you have to take those. First person to get rid of all their magnets wins. Well, the young lady I had in here didn't like that. But what we figured out is that with a bigger magnet under the table, this thing spins around, right? Oh, so by the way, if you're going to be a play therapist, you got to have a small table.
Mm-hmm.
right? You can't just have the couch, like in the old Freudian way, sit on the couch, tell me about your mother. So we took a bigger magnet and put it under the table, and then this thing would spin. So then she says, it's kind of like the Ouija board. You probably can't see that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So we made kind of a Ouija board, and then we started asking questions, and very, very sneaky like. You can't really sneak with these kids. They know way too much. But I just started bringing in the stuff. So she's been refusing to sleep in her bed because she likes to pile all the stuff on her bed. And then I finally said, does the girl's name, do you like to clean up your room? And of course, she spun it to no. And then we started talking about why you need to clean up your room, why you need to sleep on your bed, why this is a big problem in our house, etc. Probably not in that order, but you weave it in, okay? So that's kind of a summary and kind of how the office is. I mean, I when I'm in here with adults and kids, I have a whole a little bowl of fidgets, which I just let them play with while the parents and I are talking. And then I've also done parent training where I'm training them, how to play games with their kids, because a lot of the younger parents, they don't really know that.
Dr. Hemmer, we have a couple of questions here.
Sure.
And one of the things I would love for you, if you could give us your experience in billing Medicaid, and whether you have had any negative experience in including within your claim, the inclusion of play therapy in your psychotherapy notes. But before we go to that, we have a question here from Representative Garofano.
Thank you, Dr. Hemmer. Really fascinating. Thank you for sharing your experience. I'm wondering if you have any insight, and maybe after you answer the question the chair just asked, but why is it separated? Why is play therapy separated as a different type? I mean, the way you're describing it and my experience with it, especially for kids, it's psychotherapy. It's being delivered by a professional who's had training. So I'm just wondering if you have any insight of who the decider is that separates this. Is it our state Medicaid, or is it like some, psychotherapy association group, or?
I have absolutely no idea, because you are 100% correct. Play therapy is psychotherapy, and it can be based on any number, of theoretical models, whether it's Freudian psychodynamic theory, humanistic theory, cognitive behavior therapy, problem solving. Any number of different models can work in this thing. And to go further into the other part of the question, I don't bill Medicaid for play therapy. I'd say, I am a child psychologist, and I pretty much focus. I focus on the problem, not what insurance the kid has. So if you come and you have Green Mountain Care, right, I bill for psychotherapy. It's a 90837 or a 90834 for 60 minutes, or 434 for 40 minutes. But I don't know of a special code for play therapy, and I've never ever used one in about 25 years. But you're 100% correct. I don't see the difference between play therapy and psychotherapy. To me, they're one and the same. It's just the developmental context in which you do it. And play therapy for adolescents, the only thing that I've had a couple of things work. But for example, a lot of boys like to play poker. And so I'll teach them that. But again, the idea is to create a space where the child feels comfortable, can develop a relationship, and then we can get to the problem solving, or the abuse processing, the what's going on with your parents getting divorced type, issues that are going on. The biggest thing with the kids, of course, in that is the visitation stuff. The going back and forth. Kids don't like that. But yeah, I don't understand. Your question is very good and very valid. to me, there's no difference. I'm doing therapy, and I think it should be that.
Thank you. And so, I'm sorry, I was distracted for a moment by, we have like two or three things going on right now in the State House.
Sure.
And have you been denied or have you been denied a Medicaid claim, or have you experienced an audit where they have required a payback?
No.
Okay. Representative Donahue.
Yes, and I apologize if this has been asked at any point before because I've had to be in and out of it, but art therapy, is that is that segmented off and required to be reimbursed or assessed differently? Because it seems that would, that would be very much a parallel thing if you're working with people through art,
Right.
working through people with play. Is that addressed differently in the reimbursement scheme of things?
Yes. It's yes, because it's a program difference. So I went to a psychology school, right? I majored in psychology throughout undergrad and grad school, whereas art therapists go through a different type of program to become an art therapist. So as a psychotherapist working with a child, I can do art, okay? And it can be part of the therapy, but an art therapist is trained in a different way and does specific types of art therapy things. It's the same for, like, for example, music therapy. And it's similar a little bit in a way of, like, for example, speech therapy, okay? But speech therapy, of course, is more based on, I'd say, hard science, for example, like your oral mechanism doesn't work, and they're training you to do a very, very specific thing. But they're like four different things. I'm trained as a psychologist, and art therapist is trained primarily as an artist. So it's two different backgrounds.
So you referenced, though, sometimes you may use art with a child in psychotherapy. So that's maybe a better parallel question. Does that have to be segmented out for reimbursement the way play therapy? Is that addressed the same? Is it the same issue as play therapy, or is that just considered part of the psychotherapy and it's
so it's kind of like it's kind of all inclusive, right? So I don't break out, well, we spent 15 minutes doing art therapy and then we did 15 minutes doing Lego therapy. But it's the same kind of thing where, say, I don't know if you guys are familiar with what's the cartoonist's name that did the single panel things? Gary Larson, right?
yeah.
So he did the cartoon of exposure to he did therapy for fear of heights, fear of the dark, and fear of snakes at the same time. Anyone remember that one?
Not particularly.
So they put you in a
Sounds good.
box out of a skyscraper full of snakes, right?
Yeah.
So, but the idea is you would bill exposure therapy, like for fear of snakes, under the current Medicaid system that I know, that would still be 90837 because it's therapy.
Mm-hmm.
But in my notes, it's going to say exposure therapy for fear of snakes, and the diagnosis is going to be I don't think you need to put down the specific fear of snakes, but you put down a phobia.
Right.
Sorry, we just had a little technology issue here. That's okay.
No
Sorry.
problem. So again, like I said, it's you're doing therapy, but in your notes or whatever, you could say, well, we did exposure therapy.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that with kids too, and also there's things like with adults and children, there's like what we call imaginal exposure, where you get the kid into a relaxed state and you get them kind of calm. Now imagine this happened, imagine you're doing this, imagine you're going there, and how would you react? And then you're working on their processes. But again, for Green Mountain Care, when I'm billing them for children, it's just a 90837 or a 90834. It's therapy.
Yeah. And so, Christine,
I'm sorry,
I
it's
do see your hand.
individual therapy is what that code is. Yes.
Thank you. Christina, I see you have your hand up. I just want to ask Dr. Hemmer one additional question. So one of the things that's been asked, and I'm just interested in your opinion about this. So, you know, play therapy, art therapy, those are all considered part of the definition of psychotherapy right now. They're inclusive components, particularly for children under psychotherapy. And so this bill is also asking us to look at whether play therapy in and of itself, and I suppose you might say art therapy as well, you know, given that last dialogue we had, but in this case, play therapy is being asked to be looked at as a separate billable service, not necessarily as a component, you know, one of the elements of psychotherapy. And I'm just interested in your perspective about whether that is something that's desirable, or whether you would consider that, you know, to, I guess, continually be an element of psychotherapy.
I kind of agree with the latter. I'd prefer it to be an element professionally. There's a couple of things there. One is that if you say play therapy is a separate component, then they'd say, well, Dr. Hemmer, where's your play therapy certificate, right?
Yeah.
And there are a number of the continuing educational credit companies are coming out with these things. Like I just got one this morning. Get your anxiety treatment certificate. Well, I already have a doctorate from the University of Denver, so
Right.
I don't know why I would need a separate certificate. So it's just adding this layer on top of it.
There would most likely be required elements of professional
Absolutely.
credentials. Yes.
Right, absolutely. So that is putting more on the professional. Now, so for example, if you're an ER doc and you want to go into cardiology, well, there's a term for that, respecialization, right? And you have to go through a program to do that. One of my friends out in California was a research psychologist, and decided he was kind of done with teaching and being a professor, and he re-specialized in neuropsychology, and he became a person who does neuropsychological testing. Okay, so but you go through a training program for that. So again, if you're a therapist and we add this layer on, then I would have to go through some type of a retraining program to learn something that I already do.
Right. Okay. Christina, you have a question or a thought?
A few. So, no, you can't put art therapy on billing or play therapy on billing. I do know of cases where people have been audited for it and not reimbursed through Medicaid.
Yes, we already know it's
yeah.
not. We already know it's not an allowable separate service.
Right, and they have been then audited because they put it in the way that Dr. Hemmer did within their notes, and it said play, and then were audited and not reimbursed. So it feels like it's this kind of do it, but don't say you're doing it kind of thing.
Right.
And I do think it's really important to have it be standalone for that purpose. If there is someone who does come along that is interested in having it as a standalone, to have to kind of sneak around the back or not apply it in a certain way, and then continue also to be using it in the way Dr. Hemmer does. I also want to say it isn't, I think I get a bad rap for your thinking like, oh, we're just learning how to play games. Kids don't know how to do that now. It's a lot of like what Dr. Hemmer was saying, and then also clinically experienced people are pointing out all of the things that other modalities do, like emotion regulation, increased emotion vocabulary, coping skills. All of those things can be directly targeted with a selected specific toy selection that is clinically appropriate. So I want to make sure that part is really highlighted. It's not just that we're going to throw these toys in here and let them go.
Right. Right.
It is something that you want to be able to get highly trained in also too, and have that ability to say, yes, I am a play therapist, and hello, Medicaid, here is the play that I did with this client. So.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Dr. Hemmer, is there any final comments that you want to make?
No, I don't think so. Again, I can see a positive to having a separate play therapy thing, but then there's a whole training thing. It adds an extra layer of stuff on there. Whereas, according to what Christina was just saying, good therapy involves a lot of different stuff. And you have to be kind of fast on your feet. You have to kind of know where you're doing. You have to know where you want to end up. And like I said yesterday, just developing that game for the 8-year-old girl that was in here seemed to get her through a thing about, like, basically refusing to clean up her room.
Right.
And so yeah, I think that's good. And this has been really interesting. I've never done this before, so thank you for the experience.
Well, thank you for the experience of having you as a witness. And we appreciate that. And thank you for the tour of your office, and really what you do.
It's way more fun than an adult therapy office, way more. I did have a 17-year-old kid in here a long time ago, and he kept looking over at the Legos. I said, dude, what's up with the Legos? He said, I used to love Legos when I was a kid. It's like, you can play with Legos.
You can play with it, yeah. I mean, it's like, I like playing with Legos too, and I'm definitely. So, thank you very much. I think maybe, some adult therapists could use some of your tools in their offices to be more successful. So thank you both for your testimony this morning. We really appreciate it. And thank you for your insights into how this really impacts children receiving support. So thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Take care. Thanks again.
All righty. Take care. Okay, committee, I want to give you a couple of updates on things. A couple of things on what's happening around the building. Okay.
Good.
So we are doing the ed bill today. Yes, we are doing the ed bill today. I'm sure that you are, really missing all of that debate that's going to take place on the House floor, Eric. I know that's something you were, really looking forward to. So I'm just kidding, of course, So we also have a couple of things. You did some work yesterday afternoon when I was out of the room on H92. And I think that the avenue that we're going to pursue is we are going to keep H92 active. This is the first year of the biennium. But we require the information that AHS has offered to do in order to actually make the bill
Makes sense.
make sense.
Yeah.
Okay. And we have a potential vehicle to do that, which is S36 to add, because it's about Medicaid services. And this is the Human Services Board that hears Medicaid appeals. So I think that we are going to go down an avenue of, instead of writing a letter, and we also wanted this to be able to be in a bill that's going to pass this session. And so there's a lot of elements. Okay. So S36 is a bill that is Senate, it's active and met crossover. We'll be moving S36 relatively shortly back to the Senate. And so I think what we're going to do is to add a section to S36 that deals with the report that we're looking to receive back.
Things we want now.
We need more information on, and then we will continue our work on H92 next year, at the beginning of next year. We'll start that off and finish that up and move it out, because we
We'll have
will.
the information.
We'll have all the information.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was a little concerned that the letter got to be a little bit too detailed and all the elements. And so we're going to try to condense that a little bit and put it in as a separate section in S36. So we won't be voting on H92. this session. We'll be looking at that next session. But on S36, I think we have come to the end of our witness taking testimony on that. And so S36 is the one that's relating, the one we've been talking about, the public inebriate services. And so Katie, I am just wondering if we actually, so we're not going to have after floor today. So you can do whatever you were going to do when we were going to be there. But tomorrow, instead of talking about H92, I would love it if we could talk about S36 and potentially I'll get you some language, putting that amendment in there and us having a discussion about that last piece, which is, I think, the only piece that we're looking to amend or not, which is about the public inebriate repeal. So if that's okay, will that work with you, Katie?
You'll send me the language this afternoon.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, and then just so you know, we won't be meeting after floor today. Yep, go ahead.
We voting on that tomorrow?
On S36? Probably on Tuesday. Yeah,
Give us time to.
yeah, because we will work on changes tomorrow and then I'd like people to have a chance to sit and think about it a little bit and then we'll vote on it on Tuesday.
Thank you.
So I want to print off a hard copy. What was the last update? So I can,
Well, you don't
Yeah, I
want
understand.
to print it off yet because.
not yet, tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
So stop in there before 8:30 and print one off.
No, you don't. Are you talking, what are you
I
talking?
just like hard copy to look at.
Of the bill of S36?
Yeah, while she's thinking, I like to look.
After Katie has a chance to incorporate the language that we're going to give her, she'll send us a new version that we'll post and you can make a copy of it.
Okay,
Okay? And I'll send it out to people in email as well, so you can.
so should I check it out? This doesn't let me print over there, so I have to go down into that room.
Oh, you should have Delia help you out with that.
I can't get in through, but I.
Yeah, she can do it. Anyways, you'll see it in your email and you'll see it on our webpage, and then you can print it out.
And we have to be here early tomorrow.
Yes, but it's
Okay.
not for S36.
No, I'm just getting all my ducks in a row.
Yes. 8:30. We're meeting at 8:30 tomorrow.
Yeah.
We are getting an
Oh,
update
good.
on the implementation of the governor's executive order. And honestly, a bunch of miscellaneous things with DCF. We have a bunch of things out there with DCF, for which we have not received information yet. And we've been trying to for quite some time. And, excuse me. And we also want to hear an update about what's happening with the governor's executive order and implementation of the rest of the GA program. They've kind of essentially set up two programs, which, again, not sure it's legal, but that's what's happening.
And what I'd like to know is, because people reach out to me privately, where are the shelters right now?
We've received a report. You can go back on our website, look under Lily Sojourner.
Thank you. That's what I want to know.
Lily presented, she gave us a location, Sojourner, yes. Under the witness list, and you can go to the dates that she was here and there's a couple of presentations where she gave us that information.
Just so I can share with people that reach out, where does
Yep.
my friend go?
You can do that. You
I
can,
want to be able to do that.
Record.
yeah, you can
I want
also,
to be able to do that.
you can also go to the DCF website and you can find it under the DCF website in the Office of Economic Opportunity.
That's what I mean.
Okay?
Thank you. I just sent an email to somebody yesterday.
Okay. So I'm not finished giving updates here yet.
Live.
And we also have my iPad's doing something weird down here. We also have a potential amendment on the education bill that Representative Donahue is always looking out for respectful language, and I appreciate that. And so one of the things that we are looking at is, and if we decide to go forward with it, I'll let you all know, but in part of the bill, it refers to high cost students, lower cost students, and it's really perpetuating the stigma associated with special education.
Oh, you cost a lot. Your
Right.
your
You're-
illness is.
No, yeah.
Yeah.
No, but it's just pointing out, the phraseology that's used is high cost, students who are high cost as part of the weighting, in the part of the bill. I know you've all read the bill. The weighting of, language refers to high cost students. And what's being proposed is, instead of calling them high cost students, is, category A, B, and C, something like that.
Which is what they do with the English first language grouping, depending on the degree
Tier.
of.
They gave
They have
tiers.
tiers, yeah.
Yeah.
1, 2, 3. So-
Yeah. So this is trying to do the same thing, especially, for, that's less stigmatizing
Disabilities.
for
Yeah.
people, kids with disabilities. So we're working on that right now. And so, what I'm just asking you to think about is whether you want to sign on to that amendment. We can do it as a committee amendment. We can do it as individual members of committee. So that's up to you, but I wanted to let you know that that's percolating out there, and send you language, as soon as I get confirmation back in a couple other places. Yeah. Dan.
What would be involved if it was a committee amendment? Would it just be that we would all have to agree that it would come in?
Yes, and it would say the Committee on Human Services proposes to amend
Okay.
instead of individual members.
Yep.
So, I would love it for it to be a committee amendment, just because I think it sort of, puts an exclamation point on the, respectful language and less stigmatizing of students with disabilities, which of course, disabilities is, what we talk about here all the time. So I ask you to consider that. I'm not asking for a decision right now, but I'm asking you to consider that if you are interested. If you're not, that's okay too. But since it's a topic that we deal with here in our committee a lot, I wanted to offer that opportunity for people. It doesn't change anything about the bill, doesn't change any timelines or any amounts or anything else. It just is a different label for students with disabilities.
So I'm sorry, just a process question. So if we're dealing with the bill today.
It would be on third reading.
It would just come as an amendment, and that's okay to do.
Yes.
Okay, I just didn't understand. Thank you.
Yeah. No, there will be amendments today and there will be amendments tomorrow.
I see.
There'll be many amendments, I'm sure, and work through this process. So
Yeah.
you can, rest assured that we'll have a fairly lengthy floor session today. That's why we're not meeting tomorrow. And right now, after floor tomorrow, depending upon how long that lasts, like I said, we're going to be meeting with Commissioner Winters and Deputy Commissioner Gray at 8:30. And then after floor, as long as floor doesn't go like till 3:00 or something, we'll be meeting with Katie and doing a markup of S36. Okay? Anybody else have anything else?
No, it's just, yes, you're not gonna have a witness this afternoon, so. I'm sure to let AGO is supposed to.
Oh, right, that's not here. Yeah, you could ask them, we can, the Attorney General's office was going to come in, remind me what bill was that?
This is for its language.
92, it doesn't have to be, we can do that next year. Yeah. So they can cancel. We just have to remember to do it next year.
Yes, I will make.
Okay, so Charlotte, yes, we can cancel the witness for this afternoon.
And to recap, the witness is canceled and Katie is not coming back, so we have no committee after the floor.
No committee after floor today.
It'll probably go long.
So if we are to vote on the, if we're to vote as a committee on the agenda, we'd do that tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow, on the amendment for third reading,
reading.
yes, I will make sure that you have the amendment
Okay.
today.
Okay,
And then after or just before we meet with Chris tomorrow, we'll vote on whether the people if you want to do it. We're going to have it drafted as a House Human Services Committee. If people don't want to do that, then it can be redrafted
To just put
quickly.
the
to just
names
put
of
the names
whoever
of who
does
wants to
want
do
I
it.
see. And is it a straw poll or is it an actual vote that we, to do an
I think
amendment?
it would be a straw poll.
A straw poll.
That would
Okay.
come from the committee.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Yes, it would have to be unanimous.
Do you want me to send that language out?
No,
or
not
wait?
yet.
Okay.
So Is everybody clear? I'm going to summarize now because I see a perplexed look on Brenda's face.
And I'm thinking, okay,
Okay. All right. First, we are not meeting after floor.
that,
Thank you.
Second, we are meeting at 8:30 tomorrow morning
I saw that.
to hear from Commissioner Winters and Deputy Commissioner Gray about a variety of things, but primarily around implementation of the executive order and the rest of the GA hotel program, like what's happening in the field. Okay. Third, we are going to consider an amendment that I will forward to you later today that changes the labels for students with disabilities from high cost, et cetera, to category A, B, and C. Very similar to what they did for English language learners. That will happen tomorrow morning before we go to the floor. Okay. Fourth, we will meet with Katie after the floor tomorrow to do markup of S36. Okay. And then fifth, we will vote on S36 on Tuesday.
Okay. Got it all.
Okay. All righty. We're all set, Charlotte. And thank you so much for being here this morning.
Oh, you're welcome. I had to be somewhere.
All right. See you, Eric. Have fun this afternoon.
Thank you.
Feel better. Rest.
I am. I feel great. Thank you.